Insider series. Thank you all for taking the time from your schedule to join us in today's webinar. I'm delighted to have you all here and tuning in today's session. So I'll take this moment to introduce myself to everyone. My name is Jocelyn, and I'll be the host and moderator for today's panel discussion. And in today's Event Insider, the topic we'll be discussing with our guest panelists will be event sponsorship, and we will cover the aspects of how to attain, nurture, and retain event sponsors. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing what our guest panelists will have to say in today's topics. Before today's session, we opened 4 session polls for everyone to answer. Before we introduce our guest panelists, I do want to share some of those submitted responses here with everyone. So I would like to start with our go-to poll question we always have here in our Event Insider sessions is, what do you want to get out of today's session? So as shown on the screen, some of those responses are creative ways to think about event sponsorship, increase of knowledge, how to acquire sponsors, ideas for sponsorship offerings, ways to leverage Whova for sponsorship, our sponsors attend many conference, how do I stand out to make sure our conference is one of their go-tos, I believe, or the ones that they actually choose to go with and support, how best to use Whova to engage sponsors and have sponsors engage delegates, basic information, so new to the platform, ideas for creating long-lasting relationship with sponsors should come out available to develop retainer strategy, understand the platform better, and new ideas for finding sponsors. So those are all great responses here and a lot of takes of what you would like to get out of today's session. So I really appreciate all those responses from our participants here. And moving on to the second poll question, the second question that we ask is, how much does your sponsorship revenue contribute to your overall event budget? So as you can see here, the popular response has been that it contributes over 50% of your budget. 38% said that it contributes more than 50% to your event budget, following with 31% of participant votes saying that it's 10 to 20% contribution to your event budget, following with 15% saying that it is 30 to 50% of your overall event budget. And tied, I roughly would say, don't have the numbers, but I would say maybe around 10% each say that they can, of the votes, say that either your event sponsorship revenue contributes to 10% of your overall event budget or 20 to 30% of your overall event budget. So thank you all for sharing your responses for this poll question. And the third poll question that we ask here is, what channels are you using to find potential sponsors? The popular responses you can see here on the screen is personal connections or organizers of organizers or committees. So networking, your network, all those personal connections that you may have is the go-to channel that you're looking out for potential sponsors. Following with that, sponsor list of other similar conferences and events. So scoping out in other conferences, seeing if those sponsors at those events would like to also support your event, as well as the next channel that most of you are using. Online advertisement coming in, 33% of the votes say that's another channel that you're using to find potential sponsors. Industry or local business directories has 25% of the vote. That's another channel that you are all using to also scope out for new sponsors, as well as industry publications and newsletters. So those are the most popular channels all our organizers here today are using to find new sponsors. So thank you for that. And moving on to the final poll question we have here today, what are the most popular a la carte sponsorship opportunities that you are all using or providing to your sponsors? The popular one with 82% of the votes say sponsored sessions is an a la carte opportunity for your sponsors, following with 55% of the votes, tied with reception, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So food or food-related events within your conferences is another popular a la carte opportunity for your sponsors. Coming in then with 45% each, event app sponsorship or name badge and lanyards are another a la carte sponsorship opportunities that you're offering to your sponsors. Following that, we see networking sessions with 36% of the votes say that you offer this for opportunities. And then 27% with both swag bags giveaways. So all event swag is another way for you to provide an a la carte opportunity for your sponsors, as well as activities like hiking, yoga, any other fun related events is another a la carte opportunity that you're offering to your sponsors. And then coming with 18% Wi-Fi charging stations and 9% directional signage is another way that you're offering a la carte opportunities. So thank you all for sharing here and chiming in on those poll question responses. I appreciate everyone for submitting their thoughts in today's poll questions. So I know we will probably cover some of these topics with our guest speakers, so we're definitely going to tune in here to what they have to say. Also, we would also like to announce that between December 5th and 7th, our Whova team will be in Dallas, Texas, as we'll be exhibiting at the IAEE Expo. It'll be hosted at the Kay Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center. So if you plan to attend the expo, feel free to stop by our booth. Our booth number will be 1524 to receive special gifts that we prepared for our Whova customers. So come meet our staff. They would love to meet you and chat with you in person.
If you're interested in viewing more content for event organizers, subscribe to our channel, where we will continue to upload interviews with top event professionals and new content on the latest event industry trends.
So with those announcements out of the way, it's now officially time to introduce our guest panelists. The first panelist I'd like to introduce is Shayna Davidson. Shayna is the founder and managing director at Aspire Event Management, and she is our first ever guest panelist to join us live at the Whova headquarters in San Diego. So Shayna, thank you so much for your time and being our guest speaker. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourselves to the audience?
I would love to. Thanks, Jocelyn. Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Shanna Davison. I'm a certified meeting planner, founder, managing director of Aspire Event Management. We are located in Iowa, which enables us to manage events from coast to coast very easily. I've been planning events in my professional career for about 20 years, married for 21 years, and have a blended family, 4 grown adult children. It's great to be an empty nester.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing here a little bit about yourself here, Shayna. It's great to have you here as a guest panelist. And then the next panelist we have here for today is Ton Dunham. Ton is the COO and the co-founder of the Plantrician Project. So Tom, thank you so much for being here as well. It's great to have you. Would you also like to take this moment to introduce yourself with our audience?
Sure. Thank you, Jocelyn. Like you said, my name is Tom Dunham. I'm the COO and co-founder of an organization called the Plantrician Project. And the Plantrician Project is a small 501c3 nonprofit focused on educating clinicians, doctors, nurses, dietitians, on the benefits of whole foods, plant-based nutrition to prevent, suspended, and even in some cases to reverse chronic disease. So that's our focus. That's what we do. And our organization is 11 years old now, doing well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. It's great to see that you are having such a great organization and promoting a healthy way of lifestyle. So thank you so much for that, Tom. It's great to have you here as well. And our next speaker that I also would like to introduce is Kiara Graham. Kiara is the executive assistant at the Correctional Education Association. Kiara, it's also great to have you here as a guest panelist. Would you also like to take this moment to introduce yourself with our audience?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I am Kiara. As she said, I am the executive assistant for the Correctional Education Association. We are a nonprofit that provides educational resources and professional development for teachers that work inside of correctional facilities.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction here, Kiara, and sharing a little bit more about your organization as well. So now that we've introduced our guest speakers, we're going to go ahead and dive into these quick warm-up questions we have for you. So the first go-to warm-up question that we ask our speakers is, can you share a little bit about the events you recently run, like how many days they are, how many people attend, the number of speakers, all that information. So Kiara, I'm going to go ahead and start with you first here.
All right. We actually just finished our last conference in August. It was a 5-day long event. We had everyone officially come in on Sunday. Our teachers left on Tuesday. We had approximately 450 attendees, a little over 50 exhibitors, and our sponsorships and exhibitors run concurrently. So depending on what level they purchase in at, depends on what sponsorship options they have available. And outside of that, we also have another conference that happens at the beginning of the year. That one's normally a little smaller with about 300 attendees, and that's a 4-day event.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing here, Kiara. And then I'm going to move on here with Tom. Can you also share a little bit about your past event that you've hosted?
Sure. We do a variety of things, and events is one of them. And our most recent event was the International Plant-Based Nutrition Healthcare Conference, September 9th through 11th, 2023 in Palm Desert, California. We had about 550 attendees, about 25 exhibitors. We call them exhibitors because we have to call them exhibitors from a CME standpoint, but they're pretty much sponsors, but they're exhibitors, about 25 of them, Friday to Monday, so 4 days. We keep a very busy schedule, pretty much from 8 to 6 o'clock. We include all the meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're very focused on the content, the education, and the CME aspect of the whole thing.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom, as well, for sharing a little bit about your events too. It looks like Kiara and you both have pretty busy schedules for over 3-day, 5+ day event. That must be a lot. So thank you both for sharing here. And then Shayna, I'm gonna come to you. Which is the last event that you organized?
Great question. I'm actually in the middle of managing an event, multi-day event here in San Diego. It's approximately 150 attendees. There's exhibitors and sponsors as well. We have an exhibit hall, general session, several breakouts. That is one of the smaller events that we manage.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I actually want to take this moment to also really thank you from taking a moment and being here with us from your busy schedule. I know you're in the midst of organizing an event and running an event. So again, we really appreciate you here at Whova for taking the time and being our guest panelist today. So I know your event is in San Diego, so it was a great opportunity to have you here and meet us in person in our Whova offices. So again, Shayna, thank you so much for your time. I know we greatly appreciate it. And then the next question that ties to our main topic is, what are the type of event sponsors that are at your event, and how many do you normally have? So Tom, I'm going to go first with you with this question.
Yeah, so the number of sponsors varies. So our peak was in 2019, right before the COVID pandemic, probably like a lot of people, where we had 1,200 people, we had 30+ vendors, and that for us is about as much as we really want to do, to be honest with you. So those are good numbers. Post-pandemic, obviously things have had, we're still climbing back. And so it just really varies, but we shoot for between 20 and 30 is what we shoot for in terms of the number of sponsors or exhibitors, as I said, that we call it. The type for us is quite fairly focused. Obviously, being in the space that we're in, we're very careful. We actually turn down more sponsors than we accept because we're just being in the health space, we don't want any appearance of conflict. Again, we have a CME issue that we have to be very careful of. It's like we can't do sponsor sessions because it's a violation of CME. So there's a variety of reasons why we are so selective. But with that said, obviously, we focus on plant-based nutrition. So we're looking for plant-based, products, clinicians, certainly anyone in the healthcare space that's not conflicted with kind of our message would work as well. But for us, it's much more of a challenge for us than it is for, let's say, other health space events, because many of those health-based events, I just got back from one this weekend, you know, they're sponsored by pharmaceuticals. And we really do not do that. We don't do that at all. Not that we have a problem with pharmaceuticals. My daughter's a type 1 diabetic. She survives on a pharmaceutical. So I'm not like anti-pharmaceutical, but our message is mostly like health and lifestyle based, you know, without pharmaceuticals for most people. And then of course, if people need it. So we really try and stay away from that. So some of the easy picking, if you will, probably not the right phrase, but some of the easier picking for us is kind of off limits. So we really, you know, we stay focused on the healthcare space, again, mostly plant-based nutrition-based products or services.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great point, Tom. You know, kind of also getting sponsorships that also align with the core message of what you're trying to promote at your event is pretty crucial. So that might be a little bit of a challenge, but it also stays, you know, part of with aligning with yourself with the messaging that you're trying to give out with your organization and your event. So thank you so much for sharing here, Tom. And then Shayna, I'm going to come to you for kind of asking you what are the type of event sponsors that you might have and how many on your events you normally have as well. So Shayna, do you want to go ahead and answer the question?
I sure can. So it varies depending upon the event, right? We could have one sponsor that's, you know, sponsors an annual dinner. We could have 50 or plus sponsors for larger multi-day events. And I was paying attention to the graphic that you took a survey on, and you know, what types of sponsorships are involved in different events. And the one I didn't notice, and it depends on the type of experience that you're trying to have at your event, but a sponsor for entertainment. And that could be kind of fun. The entertainer is on stage, could announce your sponsor, or vice versa. The sponsor could have the opportunity to come on stage and announce the entertainment act. But the different types of sponsorships really range.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing here a little bit about the type of sponsors you have here, Shayna. And then Kiara, I'm going to come to you to close this question.
As far as our exhibitors are concerned, we have a very specific niche. Everyone that normally attends our conferences have a desire to support correctional education. They provide educational resources, books, different equipment to help our teachers give better access to education for their students. So we have a lot of different exhibitors that will attend across the country that will have products, or they have a desire to get their foot into the world of corrections, because sometimes it's a little difficult with different security parameters.
Awesome. Thank you as well for sharing a little bit of the type of sponsorship that you have at your event here, Kiara. So appreciate that. And now we will dive into the different ways to increase sponsorship revenue. In this section, we'll kind of go over the different types of approaches you can take to, you know, boost your revenue here. So I'm going to go ahead and start with attaining new sponsors. So you might start searching for companies that can be good fits within your organization, kind of also follow the same values like Tom mentioned, but with limited time, how do you identify a good number of promising prospects, and what are the tips to get key decision makers to be interested in talking to you? So Shayna, I'm going to come to you first for this question.
So if it's an industry related event, of course, you're going to go to your suppliers of products and services that are in, you know, that industry. And it's important to have that marketing piece, whether it's printed or digital, doesn't matter, but really showcasing your ROI at your event. And then, you know, one way of getting that ROI is really surveying your existing sponsors and finding out, building that relationship with the people you reach out to, and really finding out what their aim is. What are they trying to get out of the event? And sometimes you can structure your sponsorship benefits so it really fits the sponsors that you do find for your event.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those tips here, Shayna, on how to find a little bit and kind of really talk and resonate with key decision makers for potential sponsorships. So thanks for that. And then Tom, what is your take for this question?
Yeah, I mean, most of the, the standard responses, obviously you have to do your due diligence, you have to dig. We've gotten some help from board members. So we're a nonprofit, so we have a board. And so we really lean on our board to help us with some of these things as well. We'll invite people to things that we do. That's a big one for us. We'll have them come to the conference and, pay their expenses to do, not pay their travel expenses or anything like that, but pay the expenses associated with them being at one of our events, conference, whether it's food or whatever, to get them to experience it first, because we really feel like we show well, when people are at our events. So we like to do that. The other thing we do is we go to sponsors. So existing exhibitors will go to them. Obviously, we don't ask them about people in their space, but we'll say, hey, you had a good time here. You had your, you say what a great event you had. Can you tell other people who do things like this? And we've gotten a couple that way as well. So, you just try, again, you have to do all your due diligence. You have to do the basics, right? As an old coach, you got to block and tackle. You got to take care of those things. But then there's some of these, these trick plays, to use a football analogy, right? Then you go out there and you try these different things. I think, could be helpful as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing and for making that football reference, Tom. I appreciate it, kind of doing your consistent efforts, but also every now and then try to make different tactics, different plays to see if it sticks and works out. So thank you so much for sharing here, Tom. And then Kiara, do you have any additional thoughts you would like to add for this question?
Yes, we have a vendor advisory board. So our longtime supporters, we sit down with them and have, I say, maybe a discussion twice a year. What can we do better? What can we do to increase your ROI? We figure out how to best support their needs while they support our needs. Having that conversation allows us to change our structure as needed to bring in new sponsors and new exhibitors. And that's something that has definitely helped us over the years and helped us get to a better point to bring in high ticket exhibitors.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So having those conversations of really catering how much you can cater to your sponsorship is pretty crucial and kind of increasing revenue here. So thank you for that, Kiara. And so now that you get a potential prospect interested in meeting with you, how do you pitch your sponsorship opportunities? Like what data, numbers, or benefits do you include in this pitch to see what most convinces your new prospect as a sponsor? So do you personalize your pitch with these items that I included or mentioned? So I'm going to go ahead and start with your approach first, Tom.
Yeah, as far as, like I said, as far as metrics go, we do all the standard metrics. We talk about views in terms of web analytics. We talk about attendees in terms of live events. We certainly talk about the demographics of who we reach. We're reaching clinicians, so doctors, nurses, health coaches, and dietitians, which is generally a pretty good financial demographic, or a reasonable financial demographic. So we look at all those things for sure. But again, we really try and preach the experience and the association with our group. We have, knock on wood, we have a good reputation in the space. People trust us. We're very trustworthy. That's why we're so selective on some of the sponsorship stuff. But we really try and preach that association with Plantrition Project is like a leader, but a trusted leader. And so we really push that hard. It's hard to quantify that, but we really just we try and tell good stories about it. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but we do. We think that's important.
Awesome. No, that I definitely understand that take. Really making and tailoring that idea that being involved in your event is going to be a way for them to show that they are leaders and thoughtful leaders and within that space. So that's a great take. That's a great personalization tip there, Tom. So I really appreciate your response here. And then Kiara, do you have any other information or tactics that you use to convince sponsors?
One of our biggest grabbers that we have is our opportunity for our sponsors to speak to the decision makers in correctional education once they purchase a certain level. So if they buy in at our package, that's $2,500, you'll now have the opportunity to go in front of our state directors for an additional fee. But if you buy one of our higher price packages, you'll be able to automatically have that opportunity. It will also include the opportunity to have a workshop based around the product that you provide. So letting them know that, one, you can talk to the decision makers, and two, you can also showcase your product and what your company is able to do. And you'll have a guaranteed spot during our schedule, during our conference. That definitely grabs their attention.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great tactic, or a little great tidbit here, Kiara, of how you're kind of giving more, speaking opportunities and more face time for your sponsors to certain key members at your organization. So thank you for that. And then Shana, what is your approach for what you're pitching to your new potential sponsors?
I just, to Tom's point, it's really about the relationship and the experience that your sponsors or exhibitors want to have. So simply, I advise clients just simply reach out to those prospects or your existing revenue generators and really talking to them, whether you're using surveys via Whova or phone calls or in-person meetings, really finding out what is their goal, because the data that you put in front of them is only going to be valuable if it's the value they're looking for. So you really have to dive deep. There's a strategy that goes with that. So you really have to find out what their goal is for being at your event. And then again, lead retrieval, all the historical data that other sponsors or exhibitors have gotten out of your event, it's important to share that with new prospects.
Awesome. Thank you for that here. That's a great tip, Shana, tying your numbers and your metrics with what are the goals that they're trying to look for, and they align. That might be very compelling for them to really be involved in your event. So that's a great tip here. I appreciate that, Shana. So moving on, with your experience in approaching potential speakers, what are some common mistakes that an organizer can make? Sometimes we're first timers trying to do this and navigating this for the first time. So what would you recommend for other organizers to avoid making these mistakes as well? So Shana, I kind of want to come to you and hear from you first.
I have a number one rule. Don't be salesy. It's really about building that relationship, getting to know them. You're not selling anything to them. What you're trying to do is getting to know them and satisfying their need. So that's really my number one tip.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So having more of a relationship-based kind of approach rather than salesy. So that's a great one, Shana. And then Tom, do you have some recommendations to avoid some mistakes for first timers that are probably seeking out for potential sponsors?
Yeah, just to continue what Shana said, I agree. More as much with her last point about, hey, find out what your exhibitor or your sponsor is trying to get out of this and then tailor it to them. I've worked with people who they're just selling what they have, right? And it's like, well, no, that person on the other end of the phone or you're talking to doesn't want that, but you can offer them something, you may be able to offer them something else in a different angle, and so I think that's very important. And yeah, just like not focusing on the relationship long term, hey, if it doesn't work out this year, maybe it'll work out next year. And that's definitely happened for us. And again, we're a smaller group, so we're able to do this, but we have such nice relationships with our sponsors. They've been back. We have some of our people who, they bring their kids and grandkids to the event and say, hey, I wanted you to meet, my granddaughter, she's 2 years old. And so it's like that type of relationship. Not that that means anything, obviously, for the event itself, but just building that type of relationship has been important. And we've done a reasonably good job of that. And again, some of it is circumstance, some of it is our hard work. But nonetheless, it's been pretty important over the years.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that here. Well, Tom, another great takeaway is never always keep the door open. You know, it might not be this year, but maybe the next year with some sponsorship, they might be turn around and be able to support you in the future. We always hope that it's in the near future. So thank you so much for sharing here, Tom. And then we're going to move on here to another option to increase sponsorship revenue. So this is upgrading sponsors to higher tiers. So what are some tips to successfully get your existing sponsors to probably go for a higher tier and maybe contribute a little more on that aspect? So Kiara, I'm going to come to you for this question.
So one thing that we do is bundle our events. If you purchase in at our higher levels, it automatically gives you access to both events. So you pay one time, you get both events, you'll get a lot more perks. And another thing is look at what you are able to give your sponsors and exhibitors that does not take any money out of your budget. So if something that you can do for free that will seem as an additional perk to them, offer that as a add-on service or add-on event. That will definitely, one, increase revenue for you, but it will also make them feel important. And at the end of the day, like Tom and Shana said, it's all about building that relationship and getting to know them and making them feel as if the time that they are providing to come to your event is valued.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That's a great tip. Offering them add-on, quote unquote, add-on services that don't take away from your budget, but also build and solidify a little bit more of that relationship. So thank you for sharing here. And then Shana, what is your take? What are some tips to get potentially existing sponsors to move up to a higher tier?
I'm going to have to echo Kiara's point, and I'll come back to that. So there's additional things you can add, you know, the VIP experiences, you know, everyone wants to be the first to get something. So you could add those higher level experiences. And then I'll let you go on to Tom next because I completely forgot my train of thought. So
Sure, no problems. I can go ahead
I'll remember later.
Yeah. It's all right. So maybe we can come back around to you, Shana, here. But Tom, do you have any other tips to probably get some existing sponsors to move up to a higher tier?
Yeah, I think Kiara nailed it like perfectly. Like, so everything that she mentioned are all the things that we do. Again, being a little bit smaller group, one of the things we do is we offer some exclusivity in a category, which is helpful. And so again, if you're running a big event with 75, 100, that may be tricky for sure. But for us, you know, we have 25 spots, and if we have 5, you know, health and beauty or skin groups like trying to get in to the same, you know, to our event, you know, we don't necessarily want 20% of the exhibitors to be one category. We could probably have 2 or 3 of them. So we have one that we've worked with forever. We offer them exclusivity. You know, we could probably do better financially without doing that. But we like the relationship with them, you know, the stability. And so we just do that. So exclusivity could be something, again, depending on the size of your event, that might be helpful to upgrade to a higher tier.
Awesome. Thank you for those tips here as well, Tom. And then I guess for this next question, in providing new sponsorship opportunities, I know sometimes event organizers include the event app as a new sponsorship opportunity in their package. How has it been effective for you, including the event app? So Shana, maybe is it okay if I can turn to you for this question?
Of course. Thank you for that. So yeah, I was introduced to Whova as an attendee, and the attendee experience was phenomenal. So having the Whova app or meeting app at your event and having a sponsor be part of that, for me is kind of a must for all of my clients. It's the engagement, it's part of the experience. And I think sponsors find that really valuable because every attendee is going to have a touch point with that app. And so the sponsor knows that they're going to get value out of that.
Great. Thank you for sharing here, Shayna. And then Tom, do you have any additional items to probably share here for this question?
Yeah, we've tried to do it. We haven't gotten much response. Now, I've mentioned this probably with every answer. We're a small group. So like when we do things, we're very focused on the kind of execution of things. The Whova app was introduced to us. Actually, it was introduced to us probably in 2018. And we didn't do anything with them. We weren't ready for it. 2019, either 20, obviously, with the pandemic comes and everybody's scrambling to kind of go virtual. And then after that, we started looking more into the tech side of things. And so started Whova in 21, loved it in 22. That's when we really started to use it. But one of the things we didn't do a great job with was on the tech side. Oh, excuse me, on the publicizing this for sponsorship side of things. And so post event, we actually talked about that. And obviously we told everyone about it. We said, hey, go here. This is what you get. But they really didn't. They didn't understand the value of it. I think they're still, like many of us, they're just stuck in the, hey, I'm an on-site exhibitor, right? That's it. But it's like, no, you have almost the same amount of eyeballs online. And by the way, a lot of the people that are live are also looking online, at the same time. So we just need to do a better job. I think there's value there. We didn't have a ton of success with it this year, but we didn't do too much with it, but we certainly plan to.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That's a great point that you bring in here, Tom. Sometimes a lot of our exhibitors kind of just wait, since if it's an in-person, they wait for them to flock. But I do think the event app kind of gives that opportunity to do some outreach while not really moving or mobilizing all the attendees. If you have a place where eyeballs are at, the more eyeballs you get to your brand or company or organization, the better. So I definitely see how that might be something in the works for you. So thank you so much for sharing here, Tom.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one other thing, and I'm guilty of it, because sometimes I think people think like me, and of course they don't. But like, I'm not terribly engaged online, social media, things like that. It's not really my thing, but obviously there are a lot of people on. I was shocked at how active the Whova app was for our attendees, for in-person attendees. And so again, I think that's something that we do, and maybe other people have to communicate. Like platforms like Whova, they are active, and there's lots of ways for sponsors to use them. And again, just thinking, oh, I'm on site and there's 400 people or 500 or 600 people on site, that's the people. It's like, well, they spend as much time online when they're communicating. We're doing message drops, and then there's this whole virtual piece to it as well. So I think that's important certainly for us moving forward. We're going to make sure we highlight that for our exhibitors, because we want them to understand that this is a big, we paid for this, right? And it is a good perk for them, and for us. We didn't even put any upcharge on it. So that's how we're creating value for them, but we didn't communicate that value very well, and we're going to do a better job with that next year.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing there, Tom. So yeah, really expressing how it could be of a value and a service for them to really be an outreach for other for potential members that they are trying to look for. So thank you so much for sharing here, Tom. And then to close on the topic of sponsorship revenue, what are some creative ideas on the a la carte sponsorship opportunities or tier benefits that you have used that you can share here with our audience? I know this was a live poll question and we had some great responses from our audience members, but I also want to hear from our guest panelists and kind of hearing a little bit of what sponsorship opportunities you offer. So Kiara, I'm going to come to you and ask, what are some of those that you provide?
So one thing that I love is we tell our exhibitors, if you buy in at our lowest package, you'll basically pay for everything a la carte. That lowest package guarantees that you have access to food and you have access to a table and 2 chairs. Everything else, ad space, electricity, internet, signage, all of that, we charge a la carte. So we give them the option for business card information inside of the program. They are not allowed to put their logo in the Whova app if you buy in at the lowest level, but you could pay for that as an additional add-on option. You want an additional attendee to come, you'll have to pay for everything a la carte. So if you set up your sponsorship levels I honestly suggest having a large range. And sometimes give your highest tier, let that surpass what you think someone will pay. Don't lowball, because if you give this enormous package, that our biggest package is $20,000, you might not get anyone that does that, but they know what the top goal is. And you can justify, hey, if you pay in at 10,000, you wouldn't have to pay for all these things individually. And make sure your individual prices, if you add everything up, are a little bit more than your highest package. So they could see the benefit of, oh, hey, I'm saving money if I buy in at this high level package. So if you have a basic level, do as much as you can a la carte. Even if they want the signage on their booth to look a little different or to have a logo added on, you basically let them tell you what they're willing to pay for. Give them the option to do any and everything, but make them pay for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. That's a great approach here, Kiara. I really appreciate that. And then I'm going to turn to Shayna here to see what your thoughts are for giving creative a la carte sponsorship opportunities.
So every sponsor, every exhibitor, they just want to be seen, they want to be heard. And so giving them that exposure with that, whether it's a la carte or within that sponsorship package, is so important. And so let's say if your internet cost you $20,000, you don't want to set your price at $10,000. You want to be able to cover the cost of that, feature of your event, but then you also have to, what is the worth to them? So every group is different. My clients are kind of all over the place, so it's kind of hard to specify, but everyone knows their own audience best. And then we'll come in and structure, a sponsorship program that makes sense. But being seen and heard, that could be a presenting sponsor, having them introduce, a keynote, like I said before, entertainment, the internet exposure, internet sponsor is great exposure, but setting that dollar amount is kind of important to a lot of groups to actually cover the expense of that feature.
Great. Thank you so much for those tips here and some of those examples as well, Shayna. I know maybe internet might be a great way. Everyone wants it when we are in a place, we always want the Wi-Fi. So I think that's a great example to be seen and heard, and always going to resonate with attendees. That company, whoever sponsors internet, might be the one the most remembered, because you always want some Wi-Fi in any location. So thank you so much for those examples here, Shayna. And then Tom, I am going to then wrap up this question with you. Do you have other creative a la carte sponsorship opportunities that you offer?
Yeah, I think it was covered. Shane and Kiara kind of covered it. We have our general packages, and then of course we will do a one-off added email blast or something like that. And then again, what Kiara said earlier about providing things that don't cost you money, that's a great point. And of course we do a lot of those things. And then the other thing we do sometimes is we'll do things that do cost us money, but we'll do it we'll pass that expense on. So a lot of times exhibitors will say, hey, I don't want 2 people, I need to have 3 because we're doing this. And they say, fine, we'll give you a 3rd person, but you just, instead of paying the full amount, you'll just pay whatever my expenses are, and we'll give them that number. And so that's been actually quite popular. This way we don't have to, they're not really paying any more for the package, or just paying for that additional person. So we'll do that just for groups that need to bulk up staff a little bit. But pretty much what Kiara and Shayna said across the board is what we do.
Great. Thank you for that as well, Tom. And then kind of moving on here. So within the sponsorship cycle, once your sponsors commit, it's now your turn to deliver on those expectations of what they're wanting, what they're going to expect to have happen in the event. So, aside from offering logo placements on the website or any, kind of placing their brand throughout your event? What other approaches do you take to meet or exceed their expectations? I know relationship building and making them feel extra special and nourishing that relationship is important, but I also want to know what other approaches you take to meet some of their expectations when, investing in your event. So Kiara, I'm going to come to you as well.
So first, when we are on site, we make sure that all of our exhibitors have one contact person to go to. And we make sure that that one person makes sure that they get set up. They know exactly where their boxes have been shipped in. We make sure that it's brought to the area that all the tables are set up at. We have a huge banner that's set up at the entrance of our conference for everyone to see. These are all of our vendors and they have their logo placement. So as soon as they walk in to pick up their registration packet, they see, hey, there's my company. When it's time for them to come up on stage and speak their little 5-minute spiel, we have that contact person bring them up, say, hey, lunch is about to start. We need you up front. We have a special table assigned for you, so you'll have easy access to the stage. As long as you have someone that is there the entire time that can be there to troubleshoot whatever they may need. Always look for that customer service experience before anything else, because they, at the end of the day, we wouldn't be able to put on our conference the way that we do without them. So we have to let them know that we value your time and we need you here, just like you need to be here so you can push the products or whatever you need to our attendees to get a better ROI.
Great, thank you. That's a great point here, Kiara. And then, so thank you so much for that. And then Shayna, what are some other tips that you're doing to meet sponsorship expectations?
So you want to set them up for success, right? And you want to set up your organization, set yourselves up for success. So my tip is really in the pre-planning stage. And so budgeting is usually done in, third, fourth quarter. And so you want to be able to distribute your sponsorship packages and opportunities for the following year in advance so that your sponsors or exhibitors can plan in their own budgets and determine, okay, we want to do that conference and this conference the following year. And you want them to be able to build in your a la carte or packages in their budget. So that would be my, tip on that topic, is just to, in advance, in the pre-planning stage, just reach out sooner than later so they can incorporate those funds in their budget.
Awesome. Thank you for chiming in here, Shayna. And then Tom, anything else that you can do as an organizer, or that we can do as organizers to meet their expectations that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, I mean, all the same things. Two things. One, we'll often do, we'll give people a chance to meet the faculty. And sometimes some of our faculty are, they have a little bit of celebrity status. Certainly within our space, they do. So that's exciting for some people. We give them access to all the content. So we treat them just like an attendee. We add them like attendee to Whova. So not only are they a sponsor or an exhibitor, but they're also there as an attendee. So they get access to all the content. They get to see all the presentations, all the interactions as well. And then we provide, well, this is really more for the next thing, but we provide a year of access for everybody. So we give them that year of access as well, which also gets their organization in front of everybody for the next year.
Cool. Thank you for chiming in here as well, Tom, for your response. And then kind of asking this next question. This is if you leverage the digital platforms like Whova or any other that you're using in your when organizing your event to enhance sponsor visibility before, during, and after the event. So Shayna, I want to hear from you first for this question, if you're highlighting your sponsors' visibility in different digital platforms.
Absolutely, and Whova is one of them. There's, so many opportunities, and to do that, whether you're doing a virtual, hybrid, or in-person event, the platform is great for that. visibility. And I think the perception from attendees or sponsors and exhibitors is that technology piece is, they do find it valuable in some cases, in some industries, and you want to be able to have that available to them. In having those, not only the visibilities of their logo or their online exhibit booths, but they also have that opportunity for the meetups and scheduling the one-on-ones with attendees. So if attendees aren't physically meeting with them in the exhibit hall, it's very easy just to go online and schedule that one-on-one or meetup with that contact, the exhibitor.
Great. Thank you for sharing here as well, Shayna. And then I am going to also ask Kiara, what are your thoughts for this question?
Push notifications are my best friend with these conferences for sponsor visibility. If right before our luncheon, if we have 3 sponsors for that event, we'll send out a notice 10 minutes before. Hey, come join us for our luncheon sponsored by this person, that person, and this company. And that allows them to, one, automatically get the notice to their phone and say, hey, we're being recognized in a way that we weren't expecting, because we don't tell them that we're going to do that ahead of time. During the conference, they see that we stick with the standard access of 3 months after. So we tell our attendees and our other members, hey, go and look back at these workshops. Say thank you again to all of our exhibitors and sponsors for this event. And we put that in our newsletter as well. And we always thank them for their time. Of course, they have their banner across the bottom of our website, but just making sure that you use push notifications. And the best thing is that you can schedule them. So you don't have to have someone sitting there the entire time trying to push it out. We schedule everything before the conference even starts. Push notifications go out automatically. It's my best friend.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that highlight, Kiara. It's great to see how you are leveraging a little bit of the Whova platform for highlighting your sponsors with push notifications. So thank you for that. And then I'm going to then turn to the topic of keeping good sponsor relationships. I know we highlighted and emphasized that this is very important with maintaining your event sponsors. So I know numbers are a good way to kind of nurture and retain good relationships, but what are some of the other things that you're doing, kind of some examples of you're keeping and maintaining and building that relationship with your sponsors all year round? So not necessarily just during your event. So Tom, I'm going to come to you for your recommendations here.
Like two things we obviously do is like placement and price are 2 things we do for returning sponsorships. I think that's probably consistent with a lot of people. Those are the 2 most obvious things. The other thing we'll do is we'll keep an eye on content throughout the year. And anytime we're doing content, whether it be our newsletter or whatever, we will see if that ties back to one of our sponsors, and then we'll give them like some sort of shout out in that article. So if we're talking about, hey, the importance of, or how to eat healthy on the go, right? Or how to eat healthy when you're really strapped for time. It's like, well, Whole Harvest is one of our sponsors. So we'll talk about the Whole Harvest plant-based food delivery, right? In that. And so we'll just do that at no cost, right? We're not really trying to do anything. It's not like a formal sponsorship thing. It's more just like a shout out, to a sponsor. So those are things that we'll do throughout the year.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing here, Tom. And then I'm going to turn to Kiara to see if you have any other forms of keeping and building those relationships with your sponsors.
So like Shayna said earlier, it is best to get your sponsorship and events out ahead of time so they can build that into their budget. As soon as we know what our new events are, we have our mailing list of all of our sponsors that have ever attended any of our conferences. And we send that out to them, say, hey, we would love for you to attend if this fits within your schedule. If not, we'll see you next year. And we have monthly lunch and learn events. If we have a sponsor that has the ability to teach our teachers without being salesy, then we'll say, hey, are you interested in doing an hour-long virtual workshop this month or maybe next month. That is a way that we bring them in. It's not an additional cost as long as they aren't, hey, buy our products, then we're definitely open to having them teach our teachers.
Awesome. That's a great tactic, giving them opportunities, more face time with your audience, not aside from your event. That's a great opportunity. So thank you so much for sharing here, Kiara, as well. And I'm going to then move on to this next question here. About sometimes it's inevitable, a sponsor may no longer want to support your event. So what are some of the approaches that you're doing to kind of win them back and keeping them to still support your event? So Shayna, I'm going to come to you for this question to see if you have any tips you would like to share.
Again, sometimes it's very simple, just a simple conversation to find out more about their experience. And it's okay if it's not a good fit for them. Maybe they have others to recommend to your event. Maybe they have connections that would be a better fit. But really trying to understand what their experience was like and maybe what goals weren't they able to reach. Sometimes you can, pivot and help them, maybe give them a discount the following event and incorporate some of the things that would help improve their experience, because it might not just be them, it might be others who are lacking some of the ROI that they need at your event. And so that would help you maybe improve your sponsorship program or exhibit program. But knowing that it's okay if it's not a good fit, but ask them, is there anyone, we're sorry to see you go, but is there anyone else that you could recommend that would benefit from our event?
Awesome. That's a great way to spin it and kind of leveraging a little bit more of your network here. So thank you so much for sharing on that tip. And then Kara, I'm also going to ask you for this question, if there's any other formats that you're doing to either win them back or maybe leverage to acquire some new sponsorship.
I completely agree with everything Shayna said. Having that conversation is the most important thing that you can do because it allows you to save face. If they did not have a good experience for whatever reason, they notice that your customer service is still there because you still care, the reason why they didn't want to be there. And if it's something minor that could be fixed next time, you can have that conversation as to how that can be improved. If it just didn't work out for them because, hey, this isn't a good fit, that's perfectly fine. But we also give them the option to advertise in different ways. So we let them know if these conferences aren't a good ROI for you, there's the option of the sponsorship in our newsletter or an ad in our journal or an ad on our website. The cost is a lot cheaper. So financially, this might be able to fit better into your budget and you'll still be able to get that screen time that you need in order for people to come back to you and look at your product. So we give them other opportunities just to see if there's something that can be salvaged.
Awesome. Yeah, that is a great tactic, just kind of keeping them maybe modify a little bit of how they can still support, maybe not be like how they used to, but in some shape or form, and you still keep the relationship going and kind of a benefit for you. That's pretty important. So I really appreciate your responses here as well, Kiara. And just due to time strains, I know we had some other questions that I wanted to ask our guest panelists, but I also want to get onto some of those audience questions that I see posted on the Whova session. So I am going to wrap up our panel discussion and then move on to our Q&A portion. So I'm just going to go ahead and get right to it with the most popular question here. For my speakers, whoever wants to chime in, feel free to do so. These are going to be a little bit more of a free-form aspect. So the first question I have here from our audience is from Robin, and they ask, what are some out-of-the-box ideas that you're offering sponsors each year to keep your sponsorship portfolio fresh? I see a response coming in from an audience member saying that they offer 50% attendee registration and they share a coupon code with their name to employees or clients of their name. So I want to turn to our speakers if they have some other out-of-the-box ideas to keep their portfolio fresh.
One thing that we do, we partner with other nonprofits, and we have a nonprofit called Make a Smile. They build playgrounds for children that have their areas that have been destroyed by hurricanes, for instance. And we bring in new sponsors and tell them, hey, if you buy in at a certain level, part of your registration can go to this, you can donate. And that also helps them feel better because, hey, I'm also donating to a great cause. So match up what you believe in, what your organization focuses on with other companies that have that same or shared vision. See how you guys can partner, and that will definitely bring in new sponsors.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing here with this with your response, Kiara, for this audience question. And I'm going to move on to the other question that I have here from Tia. And they ask, what's the best way to share the potential sponsors about the benefits of Whova as a valid ad? So anyone else want to kind of chime in here for this question?
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends on the type of event. We have a hybrid event, so half our group is in person and half is virtual or about that. But expressing, just making sure that they know that, and then you know, not only the virtual piece or the Whova app is not just for virtual people who are there virtually, it's for people that are there in person as well. And then again, the way we do it, the fact that they have access to it post-event for some time is also helpful. So, but yeah, just communicating that even if it's an in-person event, people are still very active on the app. I think that's important because again, the thought might be otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. I see that. Leveraging a platform where your target audience is very active, where you can communicate. It's a form of channel for your sponsorship. So maybe communicating that to them might be of value there. So thank you so much for sharing here, Tom. And then this last question that I have here is from Ron. And they said, is each panel member here able to share example packages you utilize and include a la carte Whova exposure features from this, in this webinar? So I see audience member also here, Sarah, said that they use the Whova app sponsored for leaderboard sponsorship or photo contest sponsorship. So they're using some of those Whova features and tying it with their sponsorship. So they provide the prizes with those leaderboards and photo contest things that we offer here on Whova platform. But I'm going to ask our panelists if you've tried some of those out as well within your sponsorship.
We definitely have.
Absolutely.
Yep. Same. I see Kiara said
not.
and Tom is not yet. So maybe it's something you can try out there as well, Tom, potentially. But I see Shayna and Kiara are saying that they are kind of leveraging the Whova platform to do some of the sponsorships in the similar way that Sarah mentioned here in our Q&A section here. So looking at the time, it's already 5 minutes past the hour. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up our live Q&A segment since I don't see any additional questions coming in. So thank you all for tuning in here to our Event Insider. Kiara, Tom, and Sheena, thank you again for being our guest panelists. We really appreciate you for sharing your insights here with us. I know I got some great takeaways from your advice, and I'm sure our audience members did as well. I do want to give a quick shout out to Shayna for joining us here at our Whova offices while she still has to go back to go and run and organize an event. So Shayna, we really greatly appreciate you taking the time from your busy schedule and being here as a guest panelist in our Event Insider. We know we greatly appreciate it. As well as Tom and Kiara, we also appreciate your time and being here with us as a guest panelist as well. We can't do these webinars with all our guest speakers, so we highly appreciate that. And to our audience members, thank you as well for being here and tuning in, for sharing your thoughts and asking these great questions. It was a pleasure hosting this session, and I hope you all had a great time learning from our guest speakers. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for tuning into our Event Insider session. Goodbye, everyone.